What's up, everybody? This is the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We're off to a flying start here in Casa Cultura. It is Wednesday, my favorite day of the week. We got Mike Ryan in the house. We got Peter Reeves. We got the deluxe studio. The only thing that we are lacking on this Wednesday show is anything whatsoever to talk about with the Miami Hurricanes. We did the baseball show. We get into some baseball. We got that. The show with Sebastian Font. That is on the YouTube channel. That's going on. Mike, let me ask you, do you have any thoughts on Orlando Lake Nona Edge, DeAnthony Lafayette?
No clue who that is.
You don't think that you have no thoughts on this? The size, 6'1", 230. Is he a outside linebacker, D end? Where do you see him fitting in on the defense?
Oh, man, when you talk about Lafayette, you're talking about, a pretty all-encompassing kind of, is that his name or the program?
The name.
That's his name. When you talk about Lafayette, you talk about a guy, but play him inside, play him outside. One thing that I really liked about him and crunching his tape was the gap responsibility. Keeps his feet pretty well. Hard to move off of the LOS, as I'm sure you've also seen. I think early going, more of a developmental project. Like to see him add a little bit more weight. He plays pretty strong for his frame, though. So I'm encouraged by the early tape that I've seen of him. The rest of the onus is on the staff to make this work.
Excited to see his progress. The chat is on fire. Got Canes 305 saying studio's going great. Let's see. Canes Cat Heat 305 is complaining about the price to get into the regional in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
You're a sicko for wanting to go to Hattiesburg. That was a bit of a surprise draw, no? Is this favorable? I mean, Southern Miss has been really good this year. You got an SEC team in Alabama. Deck is stacked against JD and the Miami Hurricanes, but the rumors were they were headed to Austin for a regional. I think this is a better draw, no?
Yeah, except for, Canes Cat and the people that are actually going to the place. I think Austin probably would have been better than Hattiesburg.
Although they did just make weed illegal in Texas.
Wait, it was legal before, now it's illegal?
I guess. Yeah.
What happened?
We can get down to gerrymandering if you'd like, but ultimately the government just decided we're shutting that down, which I wonder if Austin just plays by its own rules.
Yeah, I mean, I went to New York on Friday before returning back to God's country here in Florida. Yeah, it's taken over a bit, you could say.
New York is crazy. It's just out in the open. It's a little jarring.
Which, by the way, it's out in the open here. I went to Oregon and they follow the rules. They're Scandinavian descent, so they're really tight on following the rules. You come down to Miami downtown, you were going to hear some loud Bad Bunny and you were going to smell some Chronic in the air. Yeah. I think if the fact that it's illegal makes it more likely to be done in public.
Are you worried about the Cascadia region? There's reports that geologists are very concerned. They're sounding the alarms that a big one is going to hit the Cascadia region.
Really?
Yeah.
I was there last summer. That would be
it's well overdue. Kind of like Napoli, where Napoli is just like Vesuvius is there, and they're just. If you've ever been to Napoli, Pete, have you ever been to Napoli?
Oh, we didn't even hop in. Pete.
Hop in.
No, I was in Florence last year. I was in Rome. I was in Tuscany, but I did not go to Napoli.
So I'm sure there are nice parts of Napoli. I haven't been to the nice parts. For me, it kind of feels like a town, and I'm Italian, so I can say this. Feels like a town that's just kind of waiting for itself to be destroyed by a volcano. They're so far beyond when it was due that they're like, why pour any money into new construction? Let's just leave this place a dump because we're going to have to rebuild anyways. So Napoli, not high on my list.
Well, listen, if they win the league enough times, it's going to destroy itself.
Yeah, I was not happy to see Lukaku once again win the Italian league.
I thought you were, so you're Cuban. You are like Ryan, I'm guessing, is like what, English or Irish or something?
Well, my first name is actually Michael Ryan. It's hyphenated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like Carl Anthony.
A little bit like that, but that got confusing for people. So I just, in any documentation, I just put Ryan as the middle name. But I am part Irish, and I'm probably most in tune, although Miami really has like a civic pride about it, a cultural pride about it. So I guess you could say I feel most Cuban, but I feel most Miami. It's different. In terms of like heritage, I feel most in tune with my Italian side because I was raised by my grandfather at such a formative year. such formative years for myself. So they were from my Italian side is from Sicily.
So you can make ethnic comments about each of those groups
I
comfortably.
mean, you know, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, so naturally I afford myself that grace.
We got here. Oh, Anthony didn't want to hear that one. Listen. We had we have a void here on the show today with
really
lack
quick
of
there.
football coverage.
Hold on. We have no void. We're going to Disney World. It's been announced November 27th, November 28th, the Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational. Miami, Dayton, Georgetown, BYU, AJ DeBonsa will be in the building. Jay Lucas, big early season opportunity. This was just announced officially. The field was announced a few months ago, but it's now been announced. We have a sponsor, the Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational. Canes Hoops will be there. ESPN Wide World of Sports, November 28th, November 27th, November 28th. This is a big opportunity early season for Jay Lucas and this Hurricanes team to make a stamp nationally and let them know we're not coming to mess around. Whew.
I saw that story first reported by someone else, but first re-reported by Trenton Breeze.
Re-reported.
Correct? Is that right? Is that Pete? That Trenton broke the story breaking? Is that correct?
That would check out.
Pete, I have a genuine question about scheduling because this is an impressive preseason tournament. This is good. Miami has played preseason tournaments, but usually in strange places with competition that isn't nearly as recognizable. Dayton's a really good program. They're crazy about their Flyers in Dayton. Georgetown, a historical blue blood program, just like the Miami Hurricanes, as you know. BYU has been frisky. So is this actually some insight into how Jay Lucas is going to schedule? Because Jim Larrañaga had a what he believed to be a tried and true scheduling formula, which actually led to some pretty terrible home schedules. I'm not going to lie. Like there were so many. I didn't know there were so many St. Francis's in the nation until we started. I'm like, wow, Rod Strickland's a head coach. Who knew? There were so many schools that I learned existed because Jim Larrañaga would schedule them at home. And given Jay Lucas's background, he's been at big programs. I'm curious if you have any insight as to whether or not they're going to alter what for me is a rather disappointing schedule process under Jim Larrañaga. Hopefully we get some better home games.
So the teams that are playing in the tournament were announced on February 27th. So I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, listen.
Cool. Well, thank you, Coach L. On the way out, you're like someone else's problem.
I think he was already out.
Yeah, on the way out, he's
maybe
like,
that was a Dan Radakovich thing.
The biggest sign was that they were talking about this at the Heck Center, and Coach L was just like, "Yeah, go ahead, schedule Georgetown."
I'll tell you where there's some anger boiling for BYU, and that is in Botswana with our man Martin Dubé saying, "Good evening, gents." This is before he even announced this tournament. This is just straight out of the blue. He says, "Good evening, gents. Watching Miami versus BYU 1988 upset loss that the Hurricanes suffered. Can't wait." Oh, sorry, that was 1990, the upset. "Can't wait to revenge 1990 in 2026. Yes, I am that petty." 36 years, Martin Dubé will have been waiting to take on the Mormons, defeat BYU. You can get a preview of that here with the basketball team, assuming there's no like volcano in the area prior to. But
who was the Miami Hurricane that when we got upset by BYU said that frankly they were too slow, we overran our pursuits? There was a linebacker for Miami that said the key to the game for BYU was Miami was too fast, too athletic. They overran their pursuits and they weren't necessarily ready for the pace that BYU brought.
It's like the pitcher, right, that throws you off throwing slow.
It's how Jamie Moyer just dominated the then Florida Marlins. We just had no answers for Jamie Moyer because he threw too slow.
I gotta say, Booker T, Pete knows this. When Booker T had their great team with Treon Harris and they were the best.
Dude, I got thrown off there for a second. You picked Booker T, the wrestler, a few weeks ago. I didn't know which way you were going with it.
I know you're an NXT enthusiast, but Booker T, the high school in Miami, in downtown Miami, was playing against everybody in the state, destroying everybody. They went to Atlanta, beat the best team in Atlanta. No one came close to Treon Harris and the boys. And then at the end of the season, a team from Utah, a bunch of Mormons came down. I'm assuming they were all high school age because it's high school. You can't like go to high school when you're 20, right?
I'm not sure. I don't think that they run missions to go back to high school.
Right,
I think it's after.
So these guys were the same age. They came down to Miami. It was hot. And those guys gave Booker T everything that they could handle. It was by far the best game Booker T played all year. And they went to Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, you name it. They killed everybody.
Mm.
So shout out to the Mormons. I don't know if we have any recruited yet. I don't know if Cristobal has been able to get that one done, open up that level of recruiting. But if anyone can do it, I think it could be Mario Cristobal.
The Samoan pathway does lead to parts of Utah as well. We when do we go to Provo? 2026?
2026, Barn Dubé, or it was laid it out.
I know it's a home and home, right? Who gets the first home?
It's going to be, I don't even know.
That was like the Blake James special, like home and home. Yeah, you guys go first every time.
It looks great. It looks beautiful up there.
That's going to be an interesting trip. That one has potential to be fun, though.
Oh,
I've been for a trip. It was about a week before Christmas, and it was very cold.
It's a weird year. It's a centennial season for Miami, and their home schedule is super loaded. A lot has been made of it. A lot of reasons as to why people are picking Miami to get out of the ACC. It's not just their talent advantage, but look at the home road splits. They play 4 road games this season. That's you circle the Blacksburg trip at the end of November, but you don't know what Virginia Tech's going to be playing for. They may be DOA or playing for somebody's job. Who knows?
Interim coach, maybe.
Yeah, you don't know there. So that one's one to keep an eye on. I guess
like BYU home and home was canceled. Hold on, hold the phone. Blue reporting. Blue, send your resume to us because we're supposed to know this and tell you this stuff.
I had no idea about that. Did you know that?
BYU home and home got canceled.
So what's the next big home and home? Is then South Carolina or Auburn?
BYU,
I think South Carolina comes before Auburn.
Man, I was looking forward to that.
I mean, there's a good chance a lot of games get canceled. It does seem like the landscape is changing yet again. John Kruk doesn't even know if the SEC is a part of the NCAA anymore. Hell, the NCAA doesn't seem like it really knows what its job is anymore.
What do they do around here? They besides give probation for Benihana's dinners. What does the NCAA do?
Did you see they're going to let the inmates run the asylum? They said the SEC and Big Ten and ACC to a much lesser degree, given Jim Phillips and his general governance, they're going to be calling the shots and saying what's okay. So kind of feels like a free for all again. Like you're going to put the SEC in charge of this. I mean, let's be real though. They've been running the NCAA for years on end anyways. They're the cash cow, but this doesn't seem like they had all this time. NIL's been around for 4 years. They kept running into brick walls legally, trying to challenge it. But they've had a lot of time to formulate a plan. They seem to have a government in place that's willing to play ball. I guess there are some people in the Supreme Court. This is a bipartisan issue. Hate for the NCAA as a governing body.
Consensus.
It crosses the aisle in ways that nothing else really does. Hot dogs cross the aisle.
Wait, what?
Yeah, everyone loves a hot dog.
I'm not a hot dog guy.
Everyone loves a hot dog. Hating the NCAA is as American and as consensus as liking a hot dog for an American. So you have Supreme Court judges that, despite their voting record, come together and in hate of the NCAA. You have Donald Trump listening to Nick Saban, doing whatever Nick Saban wants to do. We don't trust that guy whatsoever. We don't trust his intentions, but we do know that there is an honor amongst thieves, and whatever is going to benefit Alabama and Nick Saban's program, you'd think would also benefit Miami. So, D, where do you side on the NCAA's working theory that the conferences are just going to handle this?
Look, they're waiting to see what Congress does. I think that's the only way this thing is going to get anywhere. So they're really just anything they do to me is positioned to look good in front of Congress or look like a crisis.
May I ask
Congress
you,
needs to solve.
With your legal background, though, so their plan is to listen to Congress. So they just want Congress
to get Congress to do what they want to do.
But the NCAA doesn't seem to want to do anything except let the conferences handle.
Right now, I mean, right now, this is all Band-Aids because what's ultimately going to happen, any cap they do, anything they do with Deloitte, the second one of these NIL deals gets voided, it's going to go to the courts and they will ultimately lose. This is all just kind of buying time for Congress to ultimately change the law because the NCAA is a antitrust violation with everything they do. So they are illegal just existing in the way they do and the things they do.
It's not just
you got to change the law.
It's not just enforcement, though. The most recent article that I read on this is they want the conferences to also be in charge of being clearinghouses for the NIL deals. How does that complicate matters? And that seems to be like a huge conflict.
I think they're just trying to like basically take the NCAA out of it because the brand is so tarnished. People don't hate the SEC. I mean, they have rivalries, but it's not like the SEC or the ACC or the Big Ten has the NCAA stigma attached to it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So they're just trying to take that away because they don't want to be associated with something that everybody hates and it's been killed in court. So I think this is all, again, just moving things. What they want is get the NCAA out of it, present this as an issue, avoid that needs to be solved. There's crisis. You have Xavier Lucas going to Miami when he just signed a contract. You got all this other crazy stuff going on. We need the we need the Congress to save and step into the NCAA's place and do what the NCAA could not do and save college football. That's what they ultimately want. They want to change the laws because they cannot exist under the laws. They can do things, but then when it gets challenged and goes up to the Supreme Court, it will be a defeat if it even gets there. So you got to change the laws if you're not going to be able to succeed under the laws. So everything, I think, is positioned to make your case to the Congress. Oh, wait, hold on a second. This young high school student that I see in this picture right here, big game James Knable, also the SID of one of 64 teams competing for a national championship in Miami Hurricanes baseball, reminding us before we veer into, the legislature and Satanism. And I was about to go on a rant on hot dogs, reminding us that Canes baseball is 5 games away from the promised land of
When you put it
Omaha.
like that, yes.
That's it. All it takes is 5. We saw them get hot. Don't let them get hot. Friday, could they get hot?
So the home and home between BYU and Miami football was canceled upon the BYU accepting an invite to join the Big 12. This was reported in 2023. I missed this from Barry Jackson. Totally did.
Bay, man, you're about Botswana spreading like fake news out here. We're buying a hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Apparently the agreement with BYU had a provision in the agreement that allowed BYU to cancel the series without penalty if they moved to a Power 5 conference, in which they did, to the Big 12. So that series is now off. I'm sorry, Pete. I know we were all excited to head over to Provo. That won't be happening. So I wonder who slots in for Miami. Probably some crap team, right?
South Carolina, they said.
Well, no, we had the South Carolina. They were mutually exclusive. Like we had scheduled with South Carolina, we had scheduled with Auburn, we'd scheduled with BYU. This all predated conference realignment and where we are now. Last I checked, unless the chat wants to correct me on this, South Carolina and Auburn are still on, but I would say monitor those closely too, because those are SEC teams and they're throwing a pretty big fits about how hard their schedule is.
Yeah, I gotta say, so we came in here without really a format or something to talk about on the show, and then when we talk about a subject, the chat is in fact correcting us on the facts of the subject that we're talking about.
There actually
had produced the show.
There actually is something to talk about, which maybe we save more for tomorrow. But big recruiting weekend.
We already talked about the Anthony Lafayette. Mike broke him down. He's got versatility. Gonna need to add some weight, but he likes
the frame.
He likes his gap integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you got everything you need right there.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. So 2026 is indeed at South Carolina. That is a great trip that I hope to see everybody at. Their tailgate scene is interesting. Now, Lucy Rodin does a lot with us on the Levitard show. She actually had a bad report for it, but
What'd she say?
She didn't like the fans. She didn't like the tailgating experience. However, I asked her about the train carts because there's like a hoity-toity, more posh type of tailgating experience, which your boy likes, which is inside of train carts. There's train carts out on the outside, the perimeter of the stadium that people do up, make all nice and fancy, and that's where they host their tailgates. And that'll be in 2026. So next, and at Notre Dame in 2026. So good road schedule for Miami next year. And then 2027, we open the season. We all love that. We love an opening season neutral site game, which is why that's always been my plan to fix the bowl games, by the way. I can get into that since we have nothing to talk about, but we open up in Las Vegas, Nevada against Utah on September 4th, 2027. That should be a fun one too.
You got Mania 2 years in a row, followed by
I got problems with that. We can get into that in the rest.
We'll say that.
We haven't expanded, like put that on the notes. I want to talk about TKO.
Notes.
Yeah, put that on the notes for the wrestling because I got wrestling thoughts. I got AEW PLE length, and I got what TKO is doing to its hardcore fan base, which I think will end up coming back to hurt them if they don't make some concessions.
William Merriweather saying, I live in Columbia and South Carolina. Fans are obnoxious. They've been so bad forever. I'm surprised they got that kind of attitude.
I enjoy. I've been to Columbia, South Carolina before. Good steakhouse over there. I know that does nothing for you. They have a really nice music venue theater that I enjoyed a show at. There was nice Southern hospitality over there. Cox fans can be obnoxious. They're SEC fans. They can all be obnoxious, but
I went to South Carolina, Auburn one year in Columbia.
I'm sure that was incredible.
Good scene. I mean, I wasn't. I was there for work, so I wasn't. In the mix, but it was a good scene.
Yeah, I went to Columbia in 2023 to visit a friend from CanesInSight.com message board, 7.4 million posts and counting. Friend by the name of Floppy Boot Stomp. So we went to a wedding up there. Then we went to the Congaree National Park, right, which is, I believe, one of the last hardwood forests in that part of the world. We just lost heartbreaker to Georgia Tech. This was the game where we didn't kneel, right?
Oh boy.
My wife compared it to a guttural scream when that happened. She was asleep and she thought it was like, some kind of home invasion situation.
It's one of the worst days of my life.
But the next day I went to that forest and I was able to just kind of connect with nature and just get away from the trauma which has happened.
How'd you connect with nature?
50-50.
Took your shoes off, put your bare feet on the grass.
I just sat on a log and just looked up at the trees and really just try to get away, focus on the recruiting class, right? Focus on the portal. Who could jump in the portal to replace Van Dyke, who had just thrown 4 interceptions in that game, and try to think of ways I would spin it to the Miami Hurricane fan base on CanesInSight. Decided truth was the best option.
Really?
And just kind of laid into the staff a little bit and just said, hey.
You and I handled that totally different ways. I made it my mission to dox an ACC official that had a picture of a Georgia Tech football player laying out a Miami Hurricane as his Facebook profile photo because we all know our runner was down. We all know what happened there. The ACC just allowed it. Did you guys get into yesterday? Georgia Tech put in the Miami and FSU scores on their 7-6 season rings. So they went to a Birmingham Bowl, I guess, but I think they lost a Birmingham Bowl. So they didn't even I'm not really sure what this ring celebrates outside of beating Miami. Now, I have immense respect, as you know, for Brent Key. I think he's going to be a problem until he moves to a bigger program because this is absolutely like a launch pad type of job for him. Real beta move from a dude that I respect. That Middle Tennessee State did this the year that they beat us and they went on to a bowl game. And I understand their head coach was a former FSU quarterback. There was a lot of reasons. That was a program defining win for Middle Tennessee State. By the way, that head coach got fired 2 seasons later. So it wasn't the program definer, I guess we all thought. Yeah, he's on the FSU staff.
And we got Jacoby Thomas, our safety, which he coached. FSU wanted him, and they still couldn't get him.
Still couldn't get them. So I guess he had enough data to inform his decision. But I was really surprised by the decision to put Miami's logo, FSU's logo, the final scores of those games to celebrate what was a 7-6 season. I just thought Georgia Tech, because of how Brent Key just runs his program, wasn't about celebrating 7-6, and especially with silverware. That was really strange.
If your school has Tech in the name, there's zero chance that you're going to be anything meaningful in college football.
They're a former national champion.
Half. No one really remembers that.
Well, we're talking about 1990.
I'm betting big on Texas Tech's future. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Texas Tech has a lot of money. Texas Tech has been spending a lot of money on talent acquisition. They seem like they're going to make some noise this year.
We've been talking about them on Group Chat Sports.
Yeah,
we got a nice Texas Tech contingent, the Rec.
Yeah.
Right? That's what
well, is that what they do with, because the Ramblin' Wreck is Georgia Tech?
The Ramblin' Wreck, Georgia Tech. What are they called? They got a name. The Raiders. They got
the Red Raiders.
But they got a second name.
Is it Wreckham Tech?
Yeah, Wreckham Tech.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
We don't really have a second name.
There's a great comment here. Mike Ryan, I think you're a nice guy, but you're the Corey Flagg of Miami Hurricane podcasting.
Consistent?
Look, that means I'm not going to lose to BYU. I'm not going to over pursue. You don't have to worry about that. You don't got to worry about that. That is really mean.
30 rack shotty. D-Money, can we do a CanesInSight lunch at that Cuban spot, Islas Canarias, the #1 Cuban restaurant on planet Earth, so I can shake your hand and then tear into annoying Mike Ryan?
That's the last time I reveal I'm a bleeding heart liberal on this show, because like the criticisms from the chat have been unwarranted. Normally I'm a lot more annoying. This is toxic. You guys need to relax. I can fix bowl games for you if you like.
Get Mike a desk. Looks like a Jimmy Fallon late night setup.
I don't like this setup.
Yeah, you need a better desk.
I feel like my timing's not as sharp. I have an obstructed view of Peter's eyes.
Which How are you feeling about your legs right now?
The legs
are you working on them?
Yeah, I have nice legs now. That's nice.
I never know where to put them, so the desk is freeing to me. I don't know how to cross. We talked about the changing mores with crossing legs.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep up with that.
Well, when you have a base here, you can't help but to put your feet on it. There's the lower third's blocking it right now, but there's like a baseball base here. So no one wants me to fix bowl games.
Go ahead, fix them. Let's go.
You don't play the bowl games at the end of the year. You play them at week 0. You play them like in August.
Do we already do that with the non-conference openers?
Yeah, this would essentially replace that. And it takes care of branding. And I know that there's some money in those kickoff classics, but there's plenty of money in bowl games. And right now what you have is a diluted product. The argument would be, but that's a reward for the team at the end of the year. We've seen these bowl games, bastardized versions of the football team. Who was Cam Ward throwing to? It's a miracle that you even got Cam Ward in that Pop-Tart Bowl. So what I would say is have that be the reward to start the next year. You'd get much better games. You'd have the marquee players playing in them. Everyone loves a neutral site game to start the season. The excitement's in the air, and it's not a conference game. So if you lose, whatever, you had a good time. Some of those bowl games will be really marquee matchups. Some of them will be a nice little tune-up for your season, depending on where your program is. I think this fixes the issue, and also it allows you to dominate part of the sporting calendar before the NFL rips it into high gear. Imagine you have bowl mania in August. You have nice weather around the country. It's going to be a little hot down here to play some games, but whatever. For the rest of the country, the vast majority of these bowl games, which are snowy, icy, and sleety, it's a terrible viewing experience. It looks dark and dull. Have these games in August, reward the players to start their year, and I think you fix the problem.
I like it. I was ready to push back. I like it. The other thing is, December to me is really bowl season, but you really could just move up your college football playoff. I just checked. It was started December 20th. You can move it up to right after the championship games, maybe give them a 1 week rest and then go straight into it. So what would that be? Starting the 20th, I guess it'd be the 14th, right? Something like that. 17th. I don't know how it all exactly.
You would stagger it. Like you can do week -1 or what have you.
Oh yeah, move it back, everything.
Yeah,
back.
I would move it all back. I would space these games out because you don't want a super congested football calendar. You could make real big events.
You don't need students in there yet, right? Because they're in different cities. So it's not like you have to worry about starting the season early with no students because they're in different cities anyways. So it's not like, hey, if we start a week before school starts. I like it. We had this season went too long
by the time that the bowl season rolls around anyways.
The playoff went too long. I hate the playoff, as you know. I thought this year's playoff was horrible, not just because Miami wasn't in it. It's just sucked. Did anyone
the semis on? It was good.
Was it?
Yeah.
What game was good?
The Orange Bowl down here was pretty good between Penn State and Notre Dame. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's fine. Slugfest. It was
old school football.
It was fine.
Believable punches.
You would have had zero complaints if Miami was in it.
I complained the whole time. I've always complained about the playoff. It should be 14.
No, I get that, but you said this was a bad playoffs. If Miami was in it, I guarantee you wouldn't.
Well, with a little more excitement because we're number one offense in the country by about a touchdown. So yeah, there would have been a little more excitement in the playoff. But we didn't make it in. We didn't deserve to be in. We lost. It is what it is. But the playoffs sucked. And I don't see it. Now they're trying to expand it more because college football, the people who run college football don't actually like college football. They like they're very similar to politicians. I could see now why there's so much overlap here. Why? Because if you look, what's the guy? The head of the NCAA was the governor of Maryland.
Is it Sankey?
Or was it the governor of Massachusetts?
Yeah,
not Sankey.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Freaking guy.
Harvard guy. The governor of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
These guys just like being important. These college football commissioners, they wear the suits.
Charlie Baker.
They like being treated with these bowl committees. They shake hands. That's the end game of the thing. It's not actually making the product better because to expand this playoff more does not make anything better. It was horrible this year. It has been horrible. I mean, really, you only need 4 teams, and 4 teams most years is a stretch. Occasionally, you get a year like 2000 where you have Miami, Oklahoma, FSU, Washington, but really, usually it's 2 or 3 teams that are truly championship teams based on the regular season and their performance. So, I mean, look, it's whatever. It's done. Now, the biggest problem I find with the playoff is by the time it ended, nobody cared. I could tell you, this was, Pete, you tell me if I'm wrong. I know yours already had moved on to Congolese soccer, but by the time that Ohio State Notre Dame game came, nobody cared about college football. It was NFL.
Ohio State, Texas was good too. Like I said, from the semis on, they delivered.
That was the one good game. Arizona State, who, by the way, now they're trying to reseed, so that doesn't even happen like that. They're trying to get rid of that game.
But also, those wouldn't have been the Final Four. Those wouldn't have been the 4 playoff teams. They wouldn't have. So I think the college football playoff did actually deliver on getting us a tried and true champion and delivering what was ultimately the best 4 teams.
Wait, so the 4 years they didn't have a tried and true champion?
I'm saying, like, if they picked the top 4 teams in the nation, you wouldn't have had the same Final Four that you had with the college football playoff. I understand all good points. Yes, the first round was crap.
So you mean, let me just make sure I understand. So because Ohio State lost to Oregon in a game you told me was the game of the century.
It was a great game. I didn't say it was a game of the century. I said it was a great game.
Completely meaningless. And the game, what do they call the Michigan Ohio State game? This has a name, right? For the game. Is it called the game? Like they have a name for it. Completely meaningless. Michigan beat Ohio State and they still won the championship. So the 2 biggest games of the regular season, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, meant nothing. Meant absolutely nothing.
I know I sound crazy, but I'm pro more big games during a season. I like these matchups. I like having big time brands collide in the regular season. I like betting on them. I like watching them. I like the big game feel. I like the online banter. I like the fact that, they may come around and win the playoff, but for several months, the Oregon fan base is going to have the bragging rights. I don't think big time brands playing regular season games is a bad thing. I understand your take on maybe there's too many teams, but the end result was we got a really good semi and we got a champion that definitely earned it. I would say it's totally fine to have the opinion like, I'm going to wait and see on this. I want to see a few more seasons of this expanded college football playoff before I have some conviction about it. I see where the criticisms are. If you want to say that the regular season means less, okay, I can cherry pick several seasons where Alabama had a regular season loss and ended up meaning nothing.
Single loss.
There were some seasons that they had 2, and they still got themselves in the conversation because they ended up winning an SEC. What I would like to abolish the conference championship games. I think those can only hurt you, especially if you expand the college football playoff. There's nothing in it. And now that the conference champions aren't guaranteed a top 4 seed, they've already eliminated that, which is the right move because it was a little ridiculous that, Arizona State, even though they acquitted themselves nicely. Hey, that was another good game.
They almost beat Clemson. They almost beat Texas.
That was another good game in the college football playoff.
That was the only good game
of the
Arizona State and Texas.
Of the first 2 rounds.
Single good game. Would have been a nice Fiesta Bowl in a different world.
Right, but let's not act like the college football playoff when it was 4 teams didn't have stinkers too. There were a ton of stinkers.
In my opinion, there should be 2. 4 is the most because there's a couple years where you have arguments. You have the year where Miami, Washington, FSU, Oklahoma 2000. You had the year where you had Utah, Auburn, USC, LSU, the undefeated. 2. I can think of 2 years where you could have used 4.
Well, you had an article.
Every other year, you're fine with 2.
Hold up. Talking out of both sides of your content mouths, because CanesInSight has an article on its website today about the super team era is gone.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you read the product.
So if there aren't super teams, and we all concede that there is more parity, that NIL has ushered in more talent being distributed, Miami has benefited from that. There is a case to be made for an expanded playoff. I think that your frustration in taking a single year sample and saying, hey, the first round games weren't that great. Okay, cool. That's still a very small sample. I just highlighted 3 relatively awesome games. Texas, Arizona State, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State. Although that was an old school throwback game, it was dramatic. So we got 3 good playoff games. We generally get 1 if we're lucky. So I think that that's an upgrade. Yeah, do you have to sift through some crap? Absolutely. It's a pretty congested part of the sports calendar. You're good. You have other options. What I'm saying is wait and see on this one. And when it comes to the people that are traditionalists, when it comes to bowl games, I hear you. Older fans want their bowl games at the end of the year. Some people really look forward to that. If you're a traditionalist, then you don't recognize this incarnation of college football anyways. And you don't there were guys catching passes for Miami. I go to practice. I had to Google what this jersey number is because
Shamar Kirk. You didn't know Shamar Kirk?
I had no idea. There were guys catching passes from Cam Ward that I was literally learning about in that Pop-Tarts Bowl. So if that's what we're going to do, and that's one of the teams that actually brought most of its stars.
Great game, by the way. What a bowl game. You missed the only good game from a fan standpoint. Entertaining game.
No, it was good, I guess, in terms of like, it was dramatic. It was compelling. We also saw Emory Williams for a half. What I'm saying is, under my proposal, you don't see Emory Williams for a half unless there's an injury. You don't see Shamar Kirk ever. Like you see your stars. You have Xavier Restrepo actually playing in this game because it's going to mean something because it's at the start of the season. I think it's a slam dunk idea, quite honestly. And people, the only pushback, the only reason that I hear is like, why wouldn't you move it? Is, well, this is a way that it's always been done. If that's your governing, if that's your governor when it comes to how to approach things, then you're a caveman, I think.
You know, a Pop-Tart Bowl to start the year, because the peak of the Pop-Tart Bowl was when the Pop-Tart who had been eaten the year before resurrected in the scoreboard and everybody went insane. It was a surreal moment in Orlando. If that's the first game of the year and everybody's so pumped up for the season to start and they see that Pop-Tart resurrect, I mean, the place might explode. It's like a Hardy Boys return pop for the Pop-Tart. So I see the vision. I actually like this idea. This idea I like. Start it early. Do it. Move the season up. It's got to end earlier. That's the thing. The season cannot go as long as it went. It's just the championship sucked. No one cared. Move it up. Kids don't need to be in school for the first game. They could be still getting back from summer break because you have the bowl game in wherever. It's not like the athletes aren't already on campus anyways all summer. So I'm with that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Johnny Lagoon, it's unfair to graduating players. They play their bowl game. They play it, and it actually means something. They play it at the start of the year. It's a memory that they have. I'm just putting it at the beginning of the season. Heck, that might be the highlight of the season. You have an opportunity to win hardware to start your season. You're not guaranteed a shot at hardware by the end of the year. You start with such positive vibes, such optimism, and with a game that will feel like it means something, a game that you travel to. I think it's an easy solution. Call me open-minded, I guess. Some people are doing that in the chat to varying degrees of success when it comes to comedy. Keep shooting the shots, 30 Rock. You'll get there.
Sergio Sanchez says, how does D-Money not like more playoff games but says the Pop-Tart Bowl matters? I didn't say the Pop-Tart Bowl mattered in the grand scheme. I thought it was an entertaining game, a nice December fun game to watch when you're chilling at home. The game that I think should matter, call me old-fashioned, is Michigan-Ohio State that they've been playing since 1897, which meant absolutely nothing, even though there was a championship contender involved and the championship contender lost their second game of the year, which where I come from means you are out. They still won the championship. So that game meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're taking a 130-year-old game and taking away.
Ask a Michigan fan if that game meant nothing.
Oh, they're going to brag about it because it's all I got, but they're going to cry inside because these guys won the national championship.
They beat the national champion.
If they would have ended Ohio State's season, Ryan Day gets fired, Jeremiah Smith transfers to Miami, the whole thing crumbles. You don't think Michigan fans would enjoy that more? I want to kill my rivals. I don't want to beat my rivals. They get another chance, a third chance. This is absurd. Tired of this.
It is weighted to those conferences that have more difficult regular, or what is perceived to be a more difficult regular season schedule. I hear you. That's one of the drawbacks. One of the positives, so, is you get more awesome games, and I'm pro more awesome games. I really don't care that at the end of things, Michigan beating Ohio State doesn't matter much outside of to the supporters of Michigan. In that moment, it was awesome to see Ohio State lose. In that moment, it felt big. In that moment, it was exciting. It was a bit of a dull game, but it was Big Ten football, and like it was a memorable game, and it only became more memorable to me after Ohio State won the national championship. So how about this? I'll lay my sword down. I'll just wait a little bit. I'll wait a couple of years so I have more of a representative sample to know if I like this. There's too much money in the sport to not expand the playoff. And all these conferences are inflating to a point that we're reaching a critical mass, and you have to have more teams with an opportunity to generate postseason income. So it's just the way of the world, pal.
I'll quote my man Jeff Goldblum, aka Malcolm, Ian Malcolm, right, from Jurassic Park. Just because we can does not mean that we should.
He also
take a step back.
He also said life finds a way.
Life did find a way. If you give these teams a chance to win a championship enough, you'll have these talented teams click. But that takes away the whole regular season, where the upsets could mean that a talented team doesn't get to the championship because they lost in the regular season to Iowa. That's what the fun is of college football. Hey, Alabama's losing to Mississippi State. Their whole season is ruined.
Play big boy football. Miami's regular season ended up mattering, didn't it? Miami lost 2 games by a combined score of 9 points. That ended up mattering. Georgia Tech put the final score on their rings to celebrate their 7-6 season.
It'd be nice if we were in the SEC or Big Ten. We'd have been walking right in.
There were plenty of big-time meaningful games. Georgia, who knows how history, if Georgia loses that game to Georgia Tech, which was an awesome Friday night game. It was a big-time regular season game. It was the one that you wax poetic about. It was meaningful. Georgia Tech wins that game. Miami's probably in the college football playoff because their loss to Georgia Tech seems a lot more impressive, and you get Georgia out of the way.
No, Georgia would win the SEC, and they would go anywhere.
Well, would Georgia go on to win the SEC?
Why not?
I don't know. We got a sliding doors moment.
You'd have a 3-loss team in the playoff. Great. Ethiocan. Question for my boy D Money. Josh Pate. By the way, Ethiocan. My wife had some Ethiopian cuisine up in DC this weekend. She said it was outstanding. Very vegan friendly, delicious. So shout out to Ethiopia as a nation. Josh Pate on the Flow Show said his preferred ratio of high school recruits to portal acquisitions is 85-15 to 90-10. I don't know about a number on it. It just depends on kind of what you're getting, and what position you're getting. I think, to me, the way to interplay the portal with high school is about what position are we going to find in the portal. Quarterback, I'm putting right at the top of that list. What position are you not going to find in the portal? I'm putting defensive tackle, cornerback, those kind of positions on top of that list. And then I'm weighting my money and talk about the ratio. It's not about the number. It's more about the money you spend on the players, because that's what matters. That's the allocation that matters, is how much money you spend. So I spend my money on portal quarterback, high school corner, high school defensive tackle, because that's where you're not going to get Jalen Carter in the transfer portal. It's just not going to be there. You're not going to get a Derek Stingley in the transfer portal. It's just not going to happen. Caleb Downs maybe in a fluke if the coach leaves, but really unusual that those situations happen. So
yeah, the trenches typically don't leave. It's a rarity if someone portals at that position. You've been pretty consistent all year on CanesInSight as to how Miami approaches these things. And I think you have cautionary tales as to what not to do. If you go all in on the portal, you might end up like FSU. You got to supplement it. Now, is there a set number? That would be stupid. Some years the portal is stronger. Some years high school recruiting is stronger. Some years you have more kids interested in going to your school. Like, you can't have a universal rule for it. I did see Alex Dono react to an unnamed ACC coach that said Miami is like all in on the facts were all wrong, because Miami's actually done a really good job of balancing talent acquisition when it comes to the high school and the portal. If anything, Miami's been very conservative with this. There are some people in our audience that wanted Miami to be more aggressive in the portal, because some of these developmental projects like Ray haven't necessarily flashed on the field just yet. I have nothing but good things to say about Mario Cristobal's approach to talent acquisition. The proof has been in the pudding. He's been every bit the head coach that he was reputed to be in coming over here. Miami does not go all in on one side or the other. Miami has a pretty balanced approach when it comes to talent acquisition. They're doing it the right way. You don't have to look much further than upstate to find out how not to do it. That's a clip. That's a social clip. I think that's a social clip.
So Pete, now that we've got you back here, so we had a comment from 30 Rock Shoddy saying, I feel bad for Pete on Wednesdays. Pete's tearing up. Look at this. Look what Pete's been up to in the comments. We're out here working our ass off. And Pete's, I hope so, Ethio. I believe it'll be James Trafford at GK. Tenali, who I've been compared to physically. Must be a handsome individual. I don't know if he's known for that in the Premier League or whatever league he's in.
I have one thought on the playoffs.
Let's hear it.
I would love to hear your
opinion.
think
that, and it's a quick, short one. I think playoffs are an American creation that just might be the stupidest thing of all time, and just in general. But
we like playoffs in this country. Yes, it's a uniquely American thing. And if you our domestic soccer league looks ridiculous by comparison, Americans love playoffs like they love hot dogs.
they've devalued the regular season as a whole.
I respect that about is it
Premier League, but that's any league. That's
Premier?
that's going to be any league across the world.
Shout out.
Unless it's a tournament style thing.
Yeah, but you act like European soccer doesn't have playoff formats.
Well, they do.
They have plenty.
But
They have the regular season trophy, and then they have knockout competition trophies.
Yeah, the cups. It's a different competition, which is what the NBA is trying to do.
The biggest sporting event on the planet is a playoff style tournament in the World Cup. So I'm not sure what you're doing.
Again, the leagues that I think are way ahead of a lot of the American stuff.
But they have their own playoffs. They have their
not
cake and eat
really
it too.
Though for promotion relegation. I guess some of the
no, like the FA, they have domestic playoffs. Hell, the Premier League. The FA has like 3 of them.
Tournaments though.
Oh,
That's
man.
a separate. It's a separate. It's like the NBA in-season tournament.
Biggest sporting event in the world. If a tree falls in the forest, does it really fall? Does anyone really hear it?
Yeah, if there's like 10 billion people in that forest at the same time.
Which is what happens.
Are you? Wait a second. Is the take that no one watches the World Cup? Is that what your take is?
No. People watch the World Cup. However, like the people that matter don't as much watch it. Like the people that actually kind of run the whole world.
I can't tell if that's xenophobic or racist. It might be both.
I mean, it's just kind of what it is. You know what I mean?
It's certainly classist.
Yeah.
Or it's America first.
Oh yeah. Well, listen.
I agree. I do agree with Chase Rowe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. He says World Cup is a glorified Olympics.
Yeah. Well, he's got
it's a little more real.
That's coming from a Ronaldo avatar.
Let me say one thing.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
The Olympics a little more representative of the world as it is because I believe the United States typically finishes first in the Olympics and competes in it and treats it with respect. So the Olympics is truly a global event. World Cup, I'm not as sure about it.
Well, America First money, like we're hosting, so maybe get behind it. It's going to be
If they want to sponsor the CanesInSight podcast, I'm going to be wearing a Tenali jersey.
I remember growing up and the U.S. hosting the World Cup and it being such a cool thing to experience when I was a child. Unfortunately, we didn't have a domestic league at the time. It was still building. We didn't do much with that momentum. I think the United States is really primed to do a lot with this opportunity, provided everything goes well and provided that there's a good showing from one of the host nations, because it's in Canada and Mexico as well. I think this is a really cool time for your children, for younger generations. And I understand there's nothing more American other than hot dogs and playoffs than punting on something if you're not good at it. Well, it's why we lead the world in rage quits on FIFA.
I remember when my son, like talk about kids, like my kids when they were young children, they liked soccer as well, and then they grew up and played sports like baseball and basketball and left the soccer behind to the opposite gender to excel in and dominate the world.
We're a really dominant country when it comes to soccer. Actually, it's just our women that are carrying the banner.
Hey, shout out to them, man. So
I love women.
We got Studio Live in here. I'm glad we still have you, Studio Live, man. Always a good contributor. MLS has grown significantly. They signed Messi.
Studio Live, I disagree. I
disagree completely.
I disagree. I think
it's an awful product.
They made a huge mistake by putting their sport behind a paywall. They weren't mature enough to do that. I think they've somehow added arguably the most famous athlete on the planet and somehow have a lower profile. If D-Money wants to watch Messi play for Inter Miami, he's going to have to ask how he actually does that. He doesn't know. And that's not good, because what's so great and accessible about soccer as a sport is anybody can play it. You have success stories coming from favelas in Brazil because all they have is a worn out ball and all they need is their feet. This is a sport that is accessible to anybody. And here in the United States, between pay to play and paywalls, we make it more exclusive, which is why it's like more of an upper class sport here, when this is the lower classes sport. And we have to really look at the way that we make how we approach this sport. However, it's become such an industry that we don't want to. The United States actually doesn't want to be good at soccer because that means generating less revenue.
Wait, explain that.
Right now, it is such a scam that they're running with pay to play and these travel teams. It has become an upper class sport, soccer, when that runs totally antithesis to what it is for the rest of the
revenue
world.
from like youth sports and stuff like that.
It's such a racket. There's so much revenue tied in the existing structure that they're not going to tear it down and make it accessible. You have to be a world-class talent. And how do you develop your world-class talent skills right now? You have to go to these camps, these academies, go 3 towns over. We're not serious about actually being good at soccer because we charge too much money for it. That is my hot take.
Sergio Sanchez says, how does D-Money care about the regular season of sports so much, yet as a baseball fan where the regular season matters the least of all sports?
I mean, you got to qualify for the playoffs. It's very difficult. Now they've expanded the playoffs, whether that's good or bad. Tune into El Big League show filmed here in Casa Cultura. We could talk about that. We'll tee that up for next week. But, you got to play 162 games to even make the playoffs. So it's obviously very difficult to get to that point. You get more regular season games than any other sport. And if you don't make the playoffs, you're not in. Yep. It's been expanded too much is a different story. The wild card was relatively new. And then now you got expanded wild card. We'll see. History will judge whether that was a good move or not. It used to be just you win the pennant, you play the World Series. So that was when the sport was most popular, by the way.
There's a couple of people in the chat that are very quick to point out basketball and baseball are going in this direction. I'm sure you've seen from the 7-on-7s that football is also following this model. I don't think it's a good thing. I think accessibility when it comes to sports, I think sports should be a public service. I think providing fields and providing access to sports to disenfranchised parts, that's something that that's your government working for you. And I think that unfortunately it's become too big of an industry that we're going to actually see diminishing returns. The rest of the world is going to catch up because the rest of the world approaches things like basketball, hell, even baseball in the Caribbean. That's why the United States, have we won a World Baseball Classic?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, we have one, but we didn't win it last year or last time.
The last time, no,
we're
Japan
at 1.
won it.
Dominicans at 1. Japan's won 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I'm saying that right now there's a lot of selfish people that are greedy, that if you read the Dallas Stars and how they have a full monopoly over the youth system in hockey in the state of Texas, this is not actually serving the greater good. There's a lot of people that want to play sports that are being shut out of sports. I don't think that just doesn't sit right with me.
Look at this, man. Pete, this is you. This is soccer. Get in here. This is you.
I think
waiting
Pete,
for this moment.
I think Pete understands all the ways it might.
I just don't. I don't think it's ever going to be a thing here. I'm sorry, but
because of and I think it's systemic though.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think some younger kids are starting to want to play, but it's not the first sport they want to play. Yeah. It's still not. So it's going to be the tough thing.
I like the Johnny Laguna. Fortunately, everyone wants to make a buck. Look at Shamar Stewart's small Latin dad.
That is actually a really good joke.
That's got to be a commenter name. That's Shamar Stewart's small Latin dad.
We should have a comment Hall of Fame. We should have a comment Hall of Fame, and that would be in there. I would say there's an opposite. There's an opposite side of the coin that you've actually seen. The reason why we're actually a very successful women's soccer country is because we had things like Title IX that actually provided funding and access to women where the rest of the world was lagging behind. And now you see investments rolling in women's sports, and the rest of the world is going to catch up.
They're catching up, and there's not going to be any looking back.
No, Pete, I think you and I can identify a lot of the reasons why the United States just simply isn't good enough when it comes to soccer. And I think if you get to the grassroots, it is the grassroots.
Yeah, and then also the fact that all soccer fans listen to like Arcade Fire and are not representative of the country as a whole. That's probably your biggest problem, I would say, with the sport as far as growth. But
it has become a hipster thing. It has become gatekeeping in a way that I don't like. The biggest soccer leagues in this country are not the domestic league; it's a Premier League. So I do think that that's an issue. And I think that soccer fans are a lot like MMA fans, wrestling fans to a lesser degree. It's a Big Ten. I want as many people to enjoy these spectacles as possible and have access to it. And there's a lot of people that just want to shun people because they don't know enough about it, because the exclusivity is appealing to them. I'm not a hipster about that stuff. More the merrier.
I will say here, NBA playoffs, I was worried about our dominance of the world in the NBA. Been a critic. Big time critic. However, the one man fighting for our country is Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Andrade and Levine.
They're always fighting for you. Andrade and Levine accident attorneys. They don't got accident attorneys like that. If you get an accident in Spain, good luck, my friend. You are cooked. Anajar and Levine here in Florida will take care of you. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. And shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. You got a Canadian most likely on the other side of the bracket there with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Still cheering for our American brother, Anthony Edwards, to win that one. But Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know, did you see the game yesterday?
I did.
You saw the shoes?
Yeah, the DX shoes.
Was wearing D-Generation X shoes, dapped up Triple H right after the game. Shouted out Triple H. They asked him in the press conference, like, how do you feel that your dad's now allowed to go back to playoff games? He goes, that was cool, but I also had Triple H in attendance as well. So big moment for the WWE. Here, Raul Garcia saying, are you guys running out of content guy ideas? Well, how about where are we with Kane's injuries from last year, spring football? Man, it's May 28th, man. Spring football. What are we even talking about, Vladdy? The Hollywood Arsenal. Step up with we need better ideas than that. Mother, what is the Hollywood Arsenal? Vladdy, what's the Abbey right there? The Hollywood Arsenal. What is that about? I'm curious now as to what that's about.
Is that a football tie-in there, Pete? Okay. Pete's locked in. Pete's locked in. Pete's absolutely dialed.
He's already talking. He's already typing up a response to Studio One.
Are the Conference League final lineups
forming an 18 Super?
No, that's a
Super
good
League.
question. Let me see.
Anyways,
do you think they start Mark Guyu up top, Chelsea? He was killed. He needs more. He needs more run.
Anybody's guess right now.
They're already locked into champions. I don't see why they need to throw a good lineup out there.
Are you familiar with Spain's dominance in these cup finals? I think they're on a 19-0 stretch in cup finals.
And they've got the GOAT,
Isco?
Anthony.
Oh. I thought we were still running.
Isco was called up to the Spanish national team yesterday for the first time in like 6 years.
Yeah. Rejuvenation. I will say, if there is a club that can take down a Spanish club in a final, it's one of the more dependable clubs that have taken down Spanish clubs in the semis. Chelsea, it's a bit of a cell phone history in front of them. Can be the first club to win all 3 major European trophies, if you can call Conference League that.
It is. It's a huge trophy.
I think this is, in terms of like intrigue, this is a bigger final than Tottenham, Manchester United, and the fact that you have quality sides, right?
Vladdy says, I do film and TV.
Where's Tottenham?
Tottenham's in London.
So they have like 4 teams?
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
Way more than that. I think in all ranks of professional football, what's the number? Like 21?
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
one
say
city, which you have no time. I mean, of your various ethnicities, English is not one of them, correct?
No.
So no ties whatsoever, but you've chosen arbitrarily one of like 7 teams.
That's right.
With no, I don't believe they have a mascot. It's just the name of like the
Talking
sponsor.
about Chelsea?
Like they have like a sponsor on the shirt?
No, this year, for the vast majority of the season, we didn't have a sponsor on the shirt. But I chose Chelsea. It's simple enough. Like when I started getting really into soccer, through the World Cup, I wanted to follow Didier Drogba's team. It was Chelsea. I could only pick. Now you could watch, if you want to be a Brentford fan, you can. If you want to be a soccer hipster that way.
If you want to be a Brentford fan, you can.
You can.
CanesInSight.
I'm a Leyton Orient
I don't know why you do that with Wisa and Burmo out the window now. But
back when I got into soccer, a lot of these games were on tape delay. If you wanted to watch a team live, you had to pick.
You can watch it all now.
You had to pick a glamour club if you wanted to follow a team with regularity or semi-regularity of the options. I love Chelsea's kits and I love Didier Drogba. I'm also a Roma fan as well because I love Francesco Totti. But Francesco
Totti, your dog
Roma. My dog is named Roma because the Italian broadcaster would feature Roma a lot. Now, if I got into soccer, I'd probably support like a real hipster, smaller side. But also, I have the bona fides of saying I got to work alongside Chelsea Football Club for several years. So I'm Chelsea till I die.
Ethio Kane is not a fan of it. A lot of questions on Spanish soccer. Let me go back.
Ethio has an Arsenal logo.
I'm going to bring it back here to American dominance, if I may.
Go for it.
While also smoothly transitioning. Mike, what are your thoughts? This is from Anthony Manzano on WWE acquiring AAA, and who do you think is the next company that they acquire?
Well, I think the rumors are that TKO wants to start up the NXT. They had a UK brand before, but they want to do NXT Europe, which is kind of falls in line with TKO's just general growth strategy. I've got takes on TKO that you and I might bump our heads on. I'm not a huge fan of what they're doing. Again, overall theme, accessibility, grassroots, taking care of the people that ride or die with you. I think TKO kind of tries to grab the dollars. And while it's working for them right now and they're setting records for revenue, I do think this could end up biting them. And wrestling fans are a vocal bunch that they can hijack a show if this reaches a boiling point. But to answer the original question, which I forgot, the AAA acquisition. I'm excited to see the Worlds Collide show. I like that they're getting WWE talents into that. I've watched Triple Mania before. I love the luchador style. I think that's a good thing. I think that in terms of developing international stars, provided that Triple H can show that he knows how to book them and not put them all in factions with one another or just have them feud with one another, because there are certain things about WWE that are still dated when it comes to those things. They still have no idea what to do with Andrade. But I think the more the merrier. I think they're really incredible luchadors. I'm really excited to see Chad Gable headline this card.
El Grande Americano. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. He will not be on the card. It'll be Chad Gable.
Yeah, it will be Chad Gable. Maybe Chad Gable loses, and then El Grande Americano enters the fray. But as someone that loves professional wrestling and tries to consume all of it, I think this will make Mexican Lucha Libre wrestling more accessible. And we'll give them the opportunity to, I think TNA has really benefited from the WWE spotlight. So I'm excited about it. I don't know what would be the pushback. AEW is also working with the other big promotion down in Mexico, and I think they've already sold out their show. So the more the merrier.
Yeah, and you look, I think part of it is you got to keep what makes them popular in Mexico legit, right? You got to be authentic to their crowd. You can't just try to put all your American stuff for them to be popular.
I have my doubts.
In terms of the American side, because you alluded to this, I personally am a huge fan of ethnic stereotyping in wrestling, but you got to do it at least somewhat accurately. I know in the past it hasn't. You had a lot of Canadians being Russians and it was cool. But now in the modern era, you have to refine your ethnic stereotyping a bit. I mean, LWO, we have Puerto Ricans running around with Mexicans. I believe there's a Portuguese guy in there.
Well, he looks Hispanic, which counts as Triple H.
Hispanic. Let's get a Mexican faction, right? Or a Puerto Rican faction.
I don't trust them. The last time there was a Mexican faction in there, they were coming out on lawnmowers.
The Boricuas, I believe they were all Puerto Rican. Were they?
Yeah, I bet you if we find
probably
out.
Like Crush was in there or someone like that. Like somebody that was just needed to gimmick refresh.
I mean, they made Just Incredible the Portuguese Man of War.
Yeah, I believe he was Portuguese.
Okay, yeah, that's just Vince looking at the resume.
I believe he was Portuguese.
Let's get you a tan.
So you mentioned Europe. Europe is at a golden age of wrestling right now, I think, in terms of the big stage, right? And to me,
top line stars.
And I would say my wrestler of the week, I would put him in the top 3 workers in the world, and that's going to be Drew McIntyre. You saw him this weekend in Tampa, cage match against Damian Priest, a feud that we thought was going to be terrible and really has been very, very good. Good matches. The crowd.
Did you think it was? I don't doubt Drew.
I was like, what is just a throwaway?
Has he ever actually held that belt long enough to be in a photo shoot? I think the only time he actually held that belt, he held it for like 5 minutes.
Very natural.
No, that looks
like it's like the toys where they have the fist.
Yeah,
and you have to have the whole thing.
Yeah, the one time he won that belt, he had it for 5 minutes before Priest took it from him.
Anthony Manzano, thank you. He's saying the faction with Savio Vega was all Puerto Ricans. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Anthony.
But yeah, with McIntyre, I didn't think it was gonna be a good feud with because they're both big. It's hard to have good big on big matches.
Good workers, man.
It worked. Priest did great. Another Puerto Rican, put him in the Puerto Rican faction. But Drew McIntyre, unbelievable performance in that whole feud. He's taking some time off, much needed. The crowd was hot for that match, that cage match. He got him going. I think if he's the big guy against a small guy, it's gonna be a classic match. He can wrestle big on big. Top 3 worker. I got Roman as the best main event worker. As far as if you want a main event that's going to be nuclear heat, it's going to upset Mike Ryan and make the rest of the world happy. I would say Roman Reigns.
No, I'm a fan of this more unpredictable Roman stuff. I like this.
I'd say he's the number 1 main event worker, but just in terms of like mid-card, upper mid-card worker, Drew McIntyre, just the consistency, the travel in the world and getting it done in these giant arenas, these giant stadiums. Drew McIntyre for me, number 1 in that department.
Great promo. A guy that's a real good bet on yourself story. Started his career as the chosen one from Vince McMahon.
Good call. In retrospect.
Yeah. Ends up reshaping his physique, working on his character in the indies, comes up through NXT, has unfortunate for him, like his best run, his crowning achievement came when there was nobody in the crowd.
Yeah.
So then how does he reshape himself? He becomes a bleep poster essentially on social media and leans into that. An iconic feud, I think, with CM Punk. And it was at a time where
Match of the year.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to give CM Punk any benefit of the doubt as someone that wasn't a fan of what he did to AEW, and they made that work. They got people invested. It was a really good program, and it worked because of Drew. It really did. I even have the Drew shirt where he's pointing at the CM Punk tombstone. I found that in my closet the other day. I forgot I bought that.
How much clothes that you?
So many bad purchases, dude. I have an Elias Walk with Elias tour tee. I have a Rusev Day tee. I'm like, my God.
You bring that one back. He's back.
Yeah. Well, I hate the character. They're just
reheating. I don't see it there.
They're just reheating what he did in AEW.
Yeah. And it wasn't good there. Yeah.
No. Speaking of, my wrestler of the week came from, you want to talk about microwaving an AEW superstar, Ray Phoenix or Ray Fenix, depending on where you're from. I can't say enough good things about this guy. This guy's matches always deliver. He had a really fun WrestleMania match, spur of the moment decision as Rey Mysterio got injured. He came in, an incredible moment for him to have a singles match on that Mania card, and it was great with El Grande Americano. For my money, I have a hot take here, D. There is nobody that has ever worked the ropes better in the history of the business than Ray Phoenix, which is an amazing thing to say about somebody who's still in their early 30s. But I think he's the greatest of all time to do it.
No pushback. Sabu did some cool stuff. Then now you see Sami Zayn doing that little moonsault. But yeah. I listen, I'm not the biggest AEW guy, but when they had these two, him and his brother, are they Shoot brothers?
Yeah, no, I think they're legit brothers.
Him and his brother,
they're Lucha brothers
against I guess two Shoot brother tag teams, right? Because
the Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks. When I saw that on that first couple shows, I was like, man, these guys actually might win this war because it was so insane. Those two, and they had the whole day, the cage match, which was very good. So I'm with it. He's a little old now, so he's gonna have to adjust his style, right? Because he's taken a few.
He's actually still in his 30s. Like he had really bad injuries, which famously got tacked onto his contract in AEW. Thankfully, he's in the big leagues now. I think we'd all concede that AEW's slotted firmly as number 2, but he was a big part of that ascent that had you thinking, man, what are they doing down there? But this guy's matches, I've seen some of his matches at Triple Mania. I'm a big fan of he and his brother's work. His brother has become probably the bigger, more marketable of the superstars. They're probably going to bring the Lucha Brothers together just to feud them because they're both Mexican and the brothers, and Triple H is not going to be able to resist that. But then Ray's the younger of the two brothers, the healthier of the two brothers, despite a very recent hardcore injury. But I think Ray's really talented. They keep trying to get the next Rey Mysterio. They've tried and failed. Sin Cara was thought to be that guy. And then Ray ends up still hanging around. Yeah. Who knows what happens in San Diego with Survivor Series. But if anybody is positioned to be that next guy, it's coming from this family. I think Penta's too long in the tooth to make it be him. Ray might have the opportunity to take that mantle and be a guy whose in-ring style and his luchador style might be believable enough to, take down a giant with a belt one day. I'm a big fan of Ray Phoenix. If you haven't watched him, watch some of this guy's insane rope work. The stuff that he attempts to do it clean without botches really ever is pretty incredible.
No, he's the younger brother then. So he's got a couple more years.
Yeah. Penta's the older one.
The next Mysterio might just be Dom. I mean, he's bigger than Ray right now, probably. So
yeah. Dom needs work on the body. I know you're a big body type.
That's part of the appeal.
It's part of the appeal. For this phase of his character, it's working. But what Dom needs is like one of those quad injuries that puts him out for like 10 months in a couple years' time. And then he comes back looking totally different. Give him like an Andrade build. And we finally know what to do with Dirty Dom.
It did a lot for Andrade, right?
Yeah. I will say Judgment Day is like one of the few outlier factions where it's like, you can be Mexican, you can be Puerto Rican in here. We'll put you with Americans and an Irishman. Have a free for all.
They're just goths. Speaking of which, I saw a goth store in West Kendall. So yesterday, what day is it today? Wednesday. So this is actually on Memorial Day. I took a crew from the Miami Beach, my son's friends and their little brother's friends, on a fishing expedition to West Kendall. Israelis, people have never seen West Kendall, right? They're looking at it with giant eyes. There were iguanas flying around. They were trying to figure out whether everybody was speaking Spanish, yet there were more American flags. They couldn't figure the whole concept out. But we caught a lot of bass, largemouth, and peacock. And in West Kendall, next to the bait shop, right by Shorty's, there's a goth store. Did you see that? Have you seen that place?
No,
I haven't. Been right up your alley like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. When was there goth stage? 20 years ago. It might be right now.
It might be right now.
Might be right now. Maybe for your next birthday party.
Uh-huh.
So there's a goth store right next to Kendall Bait and Tackle next to Shorty's.
Really?
Not that far from Islas Canarias Cuban cuisine, which, by the way, we didn't even do the Islas at. Holy moly. Let's bring it, Pete.
Well, you started to do it and then you stopped. So
Yeah, you were doing it right now.
I'm doing it in piecemeal. So we'll get to it. Pull it up. But next to Islas Canarias in Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, and next to Kendall Bait and Tackle, a staple of all Kendall fishermen, it's a goth store. It just says like Gothic store on the top. And then that's what they do.
Really?
In fact, the owner of the store, who is a goth, walked in and she said, I like your shirt, because I was wearing the Islas Canarias fishing shirt at the time, ironically enough. She said, I liked your shirt. I said, thank you. The Croqueta County fishing shirt, which I usually wear on these shows, but it's dirty because I was catching bass with it. But so Islas Canarias, you wear that gear, you have respect in the Gothic community. If there's a girl you like that happens to be a little goth, you can impress her, not necessarily by dressing goth and going to the Kendall Goth store, but by going to Islas Canarias Cuban Express, the best Cuban cuisine on the planet, 40 plus years. You know the deal. OG croqueta, 7 different types, vaca frita, the tostones, the loaded fries, the handhelds. We know the whole arsenal there at Islas Canarias. We got to do that. We should have a CanesInSight lunch there. We'll invite your boy 30 Shotty Rock.
Yeah, I think
He's been
he
working hard in the
himself
comment.
out.
He's been working
Hired
hard.
himself out being unfunny.
He's been working hard in the comments. We'll invite the whole crew out there to Islas Canarias. And then maybe we'll stop at the Goth store and then Kendall Bait and Tackle, catch some peacock bass. Caught some peacock bass, caught a largemouth, which is a rare for me in those Kendall canals. Usually the peacocks you can get, the largemouths are a little more difficult, maybe a little more savvy, the Kendall largemouth variety. But we were able to get them both there in about 100 and I don't get the exact spot, but let's say in the 140s deep in Kendale Lakes.
Do you think that you could use a croqueta as bait to get
Oh,
those
yeah.
Yeah,
things?
probably.
Probably. I think more for a snapper.
Mm.
They have seafood croquetas.
The difficult thing is going to be the consistency because it's
Go break apart.
going to break apart.
Yeah.
These are not like crunchy,
Not
crappy
brackish water.
croquetas. Yeah, these are nice, soft, crispy on the outside, but very creamy on the inside.
Mm.
So difficult to maintain.
Kendall Largemouth would be my CanesInSight posting name.
Kendall largemouth. There you
Mhm.
go. We got Shamar Stewart's last small Latin dad.
You know what? I take it back. I'll be Shamar Stewart's small Latin dad.
All right, so let's get to the music
People
here.
have no idea how funny that is.
Can't wait to share with the
Can't
group
wait
chat.
to tell that story 15 years from now.
All right, so on the music side,
You want me to start? Because there's a wrestling tie-in.
let's start with the wrestling. Let's keep it.
Rick Derringer, who's apparently a guitaring legend. I wasn't all that familiar with his work, and then I went to his Apple Music. I'm like, I recognize a lot of these songs. Now, a lot of them are covers, but the reason why I wanted to put it's Rick Derringer, but Rick Derris Works, whatever. He's the guy that did Hulk Hogan's theme song. And Hulk Hogan's theme song, a little bit of trivia, wasn't actually Hulk Hogan's theme song to begin with. Do you know who it was made for?
No, who was it?
The U.S. Express of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham.
They were at the show, by the way, in Tampa, along with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. They were all at the show.
I was surprised by that pop, although wrestling fans are a little bit more progressive, but in the free state of Florida, I was really surprised at the reaction that he got.
Yeah, it was
Big
a mixed reaction for sure.
But I saw him post for an ad for Hulk Hogan's beer brand that invokes this song, which is one of the great wrestling theme songs of all time. Now, bar for bar, not a banger, but in terms of importance, works. It's on my 4th of July playlist every year. Real American is a catchy
You
little
don't like
ditty.
the actual song? I mean, you don't usually have it like an actual musician making the songs.
Yeah, and when you had an actual musician make this song, this could have been a chart topper in the 80s if it was just released as a single back when patriotism was really, really big. And it's big again. So maybe this song might have a little renaissance here. But rest in peace. He gave us a good piece of art that pops up every now and then to varying degrees of fanfare. I will say, not my personal favorite Hulk Hogan entrance song.
Oh, you like the
song?
Jimi Hendrix? I guess that's that's
Hollywood,
pretty famous guy.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix, Hollywood Hogan. Like we'll go with that. Voodoo Child worked a little bit better. But Real American, like when you were a little kid and the first few notes of that song came out, you can just put yourself there to see in the slow motion, hand to the ear, back when he was a great unifying force. And it just harkens back to a different time. Where people can gather at barbecues and have all sorts of different opinions, maybe crack open an adult beverage and say, agree to disagree, a better time. And it was a time that was made good by Rick Derringer.
crack open a real American beer. So yeah, I love this song.
Or to be determined sponsored beer.
That's right. La Rubia, shout out. I still love the song. I'll always love this song. This song was great. I mean, I think it's because you have a real musician. The guy wrote Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
Yeah.
Hang On Sloopy, that's him singing.
Mm-hmm.
You know that song?
Yeah,
I always play in little hoolies and
well,
places
we
like
want to
that.
monetize, so I can't do it.
That's right. Your voice is so pristine. You might hit the copyright.
It's happened before on Levitar.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So, anyways, a phenomenal song. I'm a fan. Rick Darris. You might be wondering why Pete wrote Rick Darris into this one. Rick Darris, a longtime message board poster on CanesInSight.com. 7.4 million posts in counting. I want to talk about Rick Darris for a second. Always true. So in the more Wild West days of Canes Insight, we had an off-topic board called the West End Zone, which has since been separated for advertising reasons, probably for legal reasons. It was a little bit more rambunctious, more tolerant as far as the stuff you're allowed to post, let's say. You know, it actually started
a lot of people that don't think we landed on the moon.
A lot of the formation of it was based on Aaron Andrews' nudes when those leaked. They wanted the freedom to post that. Not as the creator of it, I shouldn't disassociate myself from it. Not that I was the one doing it, but I was, you know, like the Elon Musk of the crew. Not to get too political. I was letting it all happen. Then the advertising got a little tricky. We brought on Young P, which kind of exploded on the football side. So there was some tension between the West End Zone side and the Canes Insight side. Rick Darris, card carrying member of the West End Zone side. And what he was known for is you'd have a thread about, you know, the backup left guard. And then he would post some sort of, you know, what do you call the porn where it involves like urination and feces? What's the name of that?
Scat.
A lot of scat. A lot of scat porn posted by Rick Darris in the middle of like, you know, a thread about, you know, whether, what was happening at that time. Like, who was the receiver that, like, whether Rashawn Scott was going to make the leap. All right. And then it was some scat porn mixed in there from Rick Darris. Rick Darris recently passed away, beloved by his family. In the obituary, he mentioned that he would watch this show, probably not the Wednesday show, but he would watch the other show, the Canes show, in the hospital on his last days. So, man, Rick, we appreciate you. We miss you. Shout out to his family.
Well, we lost two legendary Ricks.
Poster. So, shout out to Rick Darris. Good job, Pete. Slaying that in there.
I think people who hate me will probably tune in more.
You're like it's like the Howard Stern.
It's making people feel an emotion isn't a bad thing.
That's the Howard Stern. That's the pig vomit. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
It's 100% true.
I don't want people to feel indifferent about me.
I don't like people hate you. You're an easygoing guy.
I mean, I can disagree with somebody and get along with them quite well. I don't understand it either. People tie themselves up too much in their political ideology.
Honestly, the more I've seen a lot of similarities with you and Young Pete. I do see a lot of similarities besides the height, besides the soccer fandom. The light eyes. I do see the light eyes, right? The mixed Cuban heritage. I see a lot of similarities in that I get along with you guys great. When you guys need to disappear for a minute, you just gotta just give you space to disappear, and you always come right back.
I do get in my emotions, and I find it hard. But look, I think people are generally products of their upbringings. So I try not to judge too much. It's the higher educated people that let me down.
Johnny Lagoon saying it's just whip and dip is the reason for a lot of the
Yo,
tension.
Johnny, you're gonna have to get over that one, pal.
Yeah, hey, I received a message this weekend of Mike in public with a buddy of mine, and he looked very happy, had a smile on his face.
I'm a nice guy. Johnny, like perhaps like I wasn't the biggest fan of yours either. All right. I don't go letting people know about it. I didn't.
So what you like about Johnny Lagoon?
I didn't go posting and making content around like, you know, I met this guy, you know, probably a 4 out of 10. I didn't say that.
Met Johnny Lagoon. He was an 8 out of 10, easily, probably closer to 10.
What makes Johnny Lagoon thinks he's a catch here, that he can espouse judgment on the interaction? You know, let's have an independent arbiter react. Like, who was the more chill out of these two people?
Pete,
maybe you came on too strong, John.
You know Johnny Lagoon the longest.
I wasn't there.
Pete, you know Johnny Lagoon the longest. How do you stack up Johnny Lagoon and Mike in person? The in-person experience, not the on-camera experience. The in-person experience.
Johnny definitely will approach you with a big old smile on his face. You never with Mike. I mean, with me, Mike will smile at me, but if it's a random person, then
hey, when we first met each other, I was smiling.
Yeah,
I was smiling. That was our first time that we met in public in Charlotte, and we hung out all day. So, like,
wait! It's Champy's birthday?
No.
Oh.
No.
Wait, is it really?
No, Champy.
He's turning 50
He's
today?
in the main chat now, and he said he was wishing somebody else a happy birthday. But you know how he ends his sentences, like "Happy birthday, Filete," and I thought he was like just wishing himself a happy birthday.
He's in the main chat now.
He's in the main chat now.
They had to
Peter.
replace you, Pete.
We're full. We're at capacity.
Please.
Sorry, pal. Filete took the last spot.
We got some love from the sneaker game from Derek Hucks. Says
Thank
it's
you.
not gone unnoticed.
Derek Hucks. That's an unfortunate name. When
What's
you
wrong?
say it real fast.
No, what's wrong with Derek Hucks? The guy's
Derek
giving love.
Hucks.
You know, this is
Derek
why.
Hucks.
This is why.
Derek Hucks.
This is why you have a mixed reputation. This guy comes in here, gives you a great listener. Derek Hucks, we love. He's always in the comments. Gives you a compliment, and then you're talking about his name immediately.
Derek Hucks. I'm saying Cucks in the name.
This is why people are kind of mixed on you, man. You can't even accept a nice comment.
I appreciate Derek, and no, I appreciate the compliment. I mean, Derek, I'm sorry if that offended you. I'm just like, I empathize.
Pete's a lot swoller in person from Johnny Lagoon, and taller. Look at this guy. This guy's a Dale Carnegie in the house. Johnny Lagoon.
I feel bad for what I did to Derek. That was my lone ally.
Yeah, seriously, man. You already lost Lagoon. Lagoon went in there with his arms open, ready to love you up, and
sorry, man.
You ran him off. Yeah. Now Derek Hucks is gone. We still love you, Derek. We got you here on the CanesInSight podcast. It's music. You got the Rick Derringer, which is a great choice. Yeah, the Hold On Sloopy. I was shocked. That's like a Little Hoolies classic. That's like a bar band classic.
Oh man,
Shout out to
Hoolies.
You know, my problem with that song always, 'cause I love Real American. I always loved it. Even when I was like kind of learning more about music, I still had it in the rotation. But the version that you get on CD had like Jesse Ventura cutting a promo at the end.
Johnny, what I'm saying is, I said hypothetically, you could have been a 4 out of 10. But I don't go telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry about it.
Chase Rose saying Derek Cuck's chair. Oh man. But yeah, every time I listen to Real American, Jesse Ventura would come on the end of it. It was like one of those outros that's attached to the song.
Yeah.
So you put in a playlist.
I don't know, Gene.
He's cutting a promo on Rick Derringer. Which, by the way, he was at the. So you had DeSantis. You had one of the Bushwhackers is alive. I didn't know that. He was out there.
Which
Jimmy
one?
Hart
Luke
was
or
out
Butch?
there. I think it was Luke. You had the mayor. You had Ventura, former governor of Minnesota.
You had 2 governors in the house.
2 governors in the house. There's a lot of people in there.
Derek understands. I'm sorry, Derek. I was just saying your name out loud. I was like, wow, I say a word.
All right, my song of the week here, Pete. Pull it up here.
Mike on Mike. I know exactly what you mean too.
We got Ghostface Killah. For my money, again, I'm not saying he's the greatest rapper of all time. If there's a debate, I think you always, the names that are out there, they're the more famous names. For me personally, my personal taste, what I like in rap, Ghostface to me is my favorite, most emotional, most descriptive, most off color with his words, his syntax, the words he chooses. He'll never just say something is good. He'll say it's marvelous. He'll flip the word a little bit just to make it a little saucier. So I'm a huge fan of Ghostface. Storytelling, I also put him in the top rank. He could do a serious song. He did, All That I Got Is You, which is probably one of the most poignant growing up in deep poverty songs, which someone, who did not grow up in that environment, you can almost put yourself there because of how descriptive he is in it. Impossible, another serious subject matter there. But then he'll sometimes use the same skill for a more just off the wall kind of story. This one right here, Alex Stolen Script. It came out when we were in college, 2006, year Dwayne Wade carried the Heat to a championship.
Back, yeah.
I'm not talking about Shaq. I'm
Antoine
talking about
Walker.
Tim Donaghy.
Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, all those guys.
Big Diesel O'Neal, man.
James Posey played a big role.
It's crazy. The Heat have never won a championship without Big Diesel O'Neal or LeBron on the roster. Man,
I would watch that 06 finals back. I mean, Shaq wasn't even the best big man for the Heat.
Yeah, they don't do it without.
Zoe was more effective.
That was
But
unreal.
Avery would not stop doubling Shaq, which is why they lost, because Shaq was not worthy of doubling. I'm sorry.
They would have won the year. They would have won it the year before if Dwayne Wade didn't get hurt.
No, I know you got Champy with the ghost.
There you go. So Alex Stolen Script. So this is Ghostface again. MF Doom beat. R.I.P. MF Doom. He died like a stroke during COVID or something like that. I don't know what the whole story was there, but this song, great beat. Ghostface basically tells a story of a drug kingpin named Alex. They don't say where he's from. Kind of implied he is from an Afro-Hispanic background. Is my take? Maybe from like a Colombia. Dude. Fake passports, gets in the country.
South Carolina.
Gets big in the in the cocaine game, and then is in LA just kind of getting away from things. An associate of his was murdered, has to clear his mind, goes to Los Angeles, Hollywood, runs into Ray Charles, and Ray Charles tells him, hey, just gives him like life lessons, right? Stand-up guy. And he says, I should make a movie about you starring Jamie Foxx. Alex, the drug dealer, has the idea. I'm going to make a movie about you, Ray Charles, with Jamie Foxx, sells him on it, gets the rights. He's blind. You got to read it in Braille, writes it, signs it, then writes the script. Then Alex goes to Benihana's. He's drinking too much rice wine. He has to go to the bathroom. The person he's with selling the script to disappears with the script, and the waiter speaks Spanish, presumably in on the whole heist, or at least doesn't know what happened. So the guy escapes. Alex Stolen Script, one of the best songs of that era of Ghostface.
What a story.
Unbelievable. I didn't do it justice. It was all told in an immaculate flow with the MF Doom beat. So check that one out off of the album More Fish. Pete, you know about that one? You had a brief Wu-Tang phase for about a month.
Yeah, it was fine.
I
don't know that I ever want to go back to that phase of my life.
Was that a somber period for you, or you were just the grimy beats were getting to you?
No, I enjoy UGK. I actually enjoy listening to UGK, but the Wu-Tang's nah. It's not good stuff. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You got to refine that take to bring it back, because that's going to be a good that'll be a good one to get people going. By the way, did we skip the Pete Wrestler of the Week? Did you have one in the bag?
No.
Oh, you didn't have one in the bag?
I did have notes.
So we did not have. Hold on, wait. Just before you get to that, we had no script. Alex Stolen Script. We had no script for this show.
No.
We never have a script for this show.
Ever.
We did not have the correct facts on our schedule.
Listen. We didn't. I will say, to our defense, not to go in on Martin here, because he's always a daily listener from Africa, but he also brought those facts to the table. We did not bring those facts to the table.
It's true.
So
I had no idea that they canceled that Home and Home.
I was already making my reservations. I was ready to hype up Utah. I was so excited about it.
We own a Miami Hurricanes content company, and this was news to us.
When I saw that, I was in my head. I was writing the script for the preseason hype podcast that would start before Utah. My joke was I'd written it like literally when I saw that, I was like writing in my head. I'm like, if Mario Cristobal was a Mormon, the whole country would be Mormon, because he'd be the guy going door to door with the suit and tie, recruiting guys to Mormonism.
Keep it in drafts. In 2027, we open up against the Utes. We open up against the Utes in Vegas.
Okay. We'll keep.
Oh, wow. And you can do your Vegas era Elvis stuff.
Okay. Don't give me too many ideas. We're already working on some stuff for this year. I love where your head's at.
Speaking of Vegas, WrestleMania is going back to Vegas.
Let's talk about it.
I hate it.
Was that the note that you had, right?
Yeah, I hate what TKO is doing.
Let's talk about
First off, they did the people of New Orleans dirty. You had The Rock come out and say that WrestleMania is coming to New Orleans, which, by the way, great Mania town. There's been only one town in the history of WrestleMania where I've been like, man, it should be here every year. And it's not Las Vegas, though I understand why TKO came to this decision. More on that in a second. First off, the people in New Orleans got done dirty. And the way that TKO is spinning it, they have Chris LeGentle is an absolute demigod of a public relations guy. TKO is spinning it like, we gave you money in the bank, and this is so great for the people, and we're going to have another WrestleMania there very soon. What this is a cash grab, a blatant cash grab, because Vegas and its infrastructure allows for TKO to do more of the supplemental events that people like nightclub events and run other shows inside, all within have a hotel tie-in and partnership. Very TKO way of doing business. And Nick Khan, when he got in there, credit to him, made them a revenue juggernaut. They know what they're doing. This is a dollar and cents move. But wrestling's not always about dollars and cents. Vince McMahon used to run house shows in towns at a loss just to make sure that audiences had access to this. And you see people get priced out of WrestleManias, and they have a ton of tickets to give away. I'm one of the benefactors of that. I get free tickets to WrestleMania because I have a foot in media. And a lot of people do. This is how TKO likes having people that have some kind of social following to get it out there. And all of it kind of feels like just very superficial. And it hasn't caught up with them. Business is doing better than ever. They're more popular, arguably, not in terms of like dominating pop culture, but in terms of eyes on social media. You can make an argument that it's bigger than it's ever been because of the money that it's bringing in.
Nick Khan was out there dapping up Halliburton with Triple H yesterday.
Yeah, I think we all know around the turn of the century, like WWE and WCW were dominating the pop culture scene. You had Wyclef doing songs with The Rock. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the most famous people on the planet at the time. So it's not quite that. But in terms of revenue generation, no one can really say what TKO is doing is bad for business. But you can fully say that it may not be good for business in the long run if you shun diehards. If you do things like shut out New Orleans in favor of running back-to-back cities for WrestleMania. Also, I don't think the fans want that aren't from Las Vegas. One of the appeals of WrestleMania to me is like, this is a more cost-effective trip, becoming less so. I want to do an annual boys trip. Let me go to WrestleMania. I'll go to cities that I wouldn't have gone. I've gone to Houston. I would have never gone to Houston before. I like running towns that I wouldn't necessarily want to go out of my way with my boys to. I go to Vegas all the time. Now, it was cool to have a WrestleMania there once. Let's do it every 6 years. That's cool. But to run the same town back to back, I'm not crazy down with that. I was looking forward to WrestleMania in New Orleans, bummed about that. And I'm curious, as someone that has a family that's into it, that travels occasionally to shows, I don't think this is a sustainable model. I know they want to do one of their takeover weekends and maybe infuse the UFC. Maybe they run the Sphere. Who knows? But ultimately, I think this is a cash grab and runs against the purest form of the art.
Did you have a bad experience at the pool? All I heard in the chat, which is, by the way, still named Viva.
Yeah,
Viva
thankfully I didn't change it.
It's gonna be changed.
Viva. Yeah, Viva Las Vegas is gonna remain.
It's got a whole a year on it.
I had a great time in Las Vegas. And it kind of felt like the wrestling was getting in the way of Vegas. Like, it didn't feel like WrestleMania. I like going to a WrestleMania that feels like a WrestleMania. That's what's so great about Bourbon Street during WrestleMania time. Everyone's in cosplay. Everyone's congested into one area. Everybody's there for one big reason. In Vegas, you catch that maybe at the performers bar in the hotel lobby, but you don't really have that. It's so spread out, and there's so many people that are just there to experience Vegas. It's different. It's a weird vibe. I can't put my finger on it. You'd understand. Maybe you're into it because you didn't go last year and now you finally have an opportunity to go. It's more family friendly than it has been previously, but I'm not a fan of this. And I do think it's going to catch up to them, particularly we saw this audience crap all over The Rock's plans once when he tried to make himself the main event with Roman Reigns. They leaned in and they listened to the crowd. I do think there's going to come a day very soon where the crowd rebels against TKO and their way of doing business. And they're going to be very vocal. And we'll see if they choose to listen to this one time. Remember, Dana White got one of the loudest boos at WrestleMania. WWE fans aren't down with Dana and the UFC and the way that they go about business. And this is going to come to a head at some point, I predict.
You know, also the WrestleMania crowd is all around the world. There's a little different. The WrestleMania crowd's pretty unique. I wouldn't say it's like Americana at WrestleMania.
No, but I do think generally, and the WWE does cater to this, it's a more progressive, more vocal part of the audience. And, you know, they run the risk of making that vocal part of the audience vocal.
I'm looking forward to potentially going. We'll see. You know, my kids are still in kayfabe, at the edge of kayfabe. I heard my son say the word plot before the event last week, so they might be on the edge. We'll see where they are at. I would like to join you guys for Mania this year. But we'll see. But I think mainstream, I actually think it's more mainstream now, honestly. It's more popular when our era, like as far as like everyone in the grade will watch wrestling. When my kids, like 4 of the kids will like wrestling. It's not like everybody knew Stone Cold and DX like we grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you're my kids, right, we would pop, they just try to ram so many shitty celebrities down our throat back in the era. You know what I'm talking about? Like we were like popping for, like I knew who, like Marla Maples. I knew who Marla Maples was because she was like a ring girl. Like
I knew Tiny Tim.
Tiny
Tim just because of wrestling.
That was like, those guys aren't even famous.
Uh-huh.
Now these people are actually famous. Bad Bunny's the biggest artist in the world, and he's having like full-on ladder matches with Savio Vega run-ins. You know what I mean? Like,
he might have a match.
Travis Scott is like on the merch. Like he's going to have another match. You know, like the president is a Hall of Famer. Like the governor was at the show I just went to. Like that's not, like for my kids, if you're my kids and you grew up in this, you would think wrestling is the biggest thing in the world because, like, okay, I turn on the UF game. It's Tessitore. He's on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
The post game show during the week is McAfee. He's on Raw. I'm sorry, Tessitore's on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is overlapping. If you're a kid, just you know, oh, Tyrese Halliburton and Brunson are throwing chairs at each other. Now they're in this thing. You know, I see Joel Embiid and Giannis doing the suck it to everybody. To them, it's all kind of one thing. Even like, you know, Travis Kelce, like they see all that. So I think in terms of mainstream, like celebrity stuff, definitely to me, more mainstream than in the past. Maybe not as popular across the board of a certain age.
which is what I'm getting at is TKO is very big on perception and making things feel big, and they do that by siphoning off the celebrity of others and the credibility of others in a good way. In a good way. And I think right now you have the better hand. TKO has infused WWE with new life. I don't think that they miss Vince McMahon. I think fans, although you could look at some of the main event programs that they've run and the promos I've seen have drawn some criticism. We'll see year 3 of the Triple H booking experience, how that goes over. I worry about the sustainability. Now, it's hard to shake a professional wrestling fan. They sat through essentially a decade of bad stuff in the teens.
Real quick, because I want to get through to this comment to your point. So Ghost and Von Donaldson coming in strong here, obviously, at this time. He's saying Celebrity Raw GM was such a terrible era. The fat guy for Price is Right was the GM for the day. Pee-wee Herman hosted a Raw.
Yeah, there are certain pro wrestling fans that you're never going to shake off the branch, as the 20 teens taught us. But they can't hijack shows, and they can make their presence known, and they can withhold their dollar. Now, you may not care about their dollar. You may be going for, they are certainly going for a more affluent type of wrestling fan, which is why they're trying to do these things with credibility and make it cool. That's all right. That may very well work, but they're going to shun a lot of the people that got them to that point, and they're going to make their voices heard, is all I'm saying. And we'll see how that goes. You may be able to navigate it. You may be able to spin it into a win like you did with 2 WrestleManias ago. But I do think something very interesting is happening there.
Can I tell you something real quick, off topic? The worst insider in the history of Hurricane Insiders is SID Cam Gorby. Because he will send something like right now. I get my text kind of in the same thing. I'm looking at the chat. So I only see the latest message of the chat.
Okay.
Latest message of the chat. Cam Gorby, please don't share. Oh, holy moly. What's going on here? I open it up. The start time to Bethune and the start time for USF. So
wow.
if
special,
we got to keep that under wraps. In fact, that is keep under your hats from Cam Gorby. The start time for Bethune and the start time for USF. So guys,
that's actually huge, sneaky huge.
Oh, I'm excited about what he said.
I'm going to take a look at it, because if you're a mega Canes fan and you want to catch Cam Ward's first game against the Denver Broncos, you need the Bethune start time to kind of play ball with you.
We got to hold it. We got to keep it under our hats.
Oh, we're embargoed.
It's like exploding under my hat right there. It goes to about Donaldson saying, tell Cam Gorby to fire DJ Volume. What else we got here? Great comment here from Mark Rosdale. I pulled it up, but I want to get back to it. Briscoe Brothers versus Funk Brothers in Miami Beach Convention Center in the 1970s, Wednesday nights classic. I live like walking distance from the Miami Beach Convention Center, and the history of that building is underrated.
Ali.
I mean, how many times did Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes bleed, the Funk Brothers, the Briscoe Brothers, Harley Race? How many times did they bleed in that venue? God is my witness. I've not had a sit down interview with Mario Cristobal. When that day comes, which will probably happen this summer, I will ask him about championship wrestling from Florida, and I promise you, he is going to know more than you could believe about that era. I've heard him opine on it. He is an expert. He can drop 15 names like that about that era. So that is my promise. I can't promise to get anything out of the meaningful on the football side of things.
Hurricane. Let's have it happen on Hurricane.
Now we're talking. Let's
we were
go.
in negotiations last year. It almost happened.
That was
the aforementioned Cam Gorby tried to make it happen.
I can let you produce the shows more, because you'll be on the side. We'll have shows with completely no production whatsoever. And
Spring Stampede?
I didn't
My
know
producer was on an airplane. One of the more impressive feats.
I don't know what the hell we're talking about. I couldn't even think what Pete's going to put on the description of the show. And then when I'm like, hey, Mike, can you take care of the show or vacation? It's like Kevin Clark, Bear, Sedano. It's like a classic show at the drop of a hat. David Lake with the Panthers jersey.
Wasn't at the drop of a hat. I needed a day, an additional day to put it together. Had a lot going on there.
Speaking of the devil, never stop fighting, baby. We extend the series tonight, baby. Go Hurricanes, go Canes. Never stop fighting. The storm is coming. Be ready, Panthers fans. This little fairy tale story is over with, man. It's over with. The collapse has begun. Paul Maurice is a bozo.
You're back on the Hurricanes, man.
It's been a long 3 years. Oh, the outlier 3-year fairy tale.
Three. Have they won back to back? Man's counting his rings before they happen, man. One title and nothing special.
They're looking for their 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup final appearance.
Whoa, the final appearance.
Third consecutive Eastern Conference trophy.
Hanging banners for runners up, man. Can't do that.
Studio One Live saying he covered football, baseball, soccer, wrestling, miscellaneous beefs, and more. Who can compete? Pete, of course, a lifelong hockey fan.
Don't forget
Dropping
fishing.
in his hockey thought.
We covered fishing and Kendall Goths.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna send you the text. There's a Kendall Goth store.
I mean,
I don't know if their style is like if they have like hoops that are gothic hoops. If there's a Kendall Goth look.
Kendall Goth
different.
sounds like an old like Pornhub search algo for me. What is that? Did we just hit the winner?
Let's go.
We hit the winner. Go Cats.
Go Cats. Go
Go
Canes.
Miami
Go
Hurricanes.
Canes, baby. The
Go
black and red,
Cats.
baby.
Shut